And don't even get me freaking started on tipping culture. We talked about that earlier.
Yeah.
I just I cannot stand tipping. Like we talked about that. Tipping culture in the United States is insane. And apparently a lot of Britbongers didn't know that waiters and waitresses get taxed on their tips. That waiters and waitresses are expected to count their tips and put them in as income so Big Daddy government can get their share of your tips.
Literally the whole point of a tip is it's a gift. That's the whole point of it. It's not commission. It's a gift.
It's insane how bad tipping is in this country. Uzalu, do you think we could get away with showing a 4-minute clip of a movie from the 90s? You think we could get away with that?
If we're commentating on it, Wes, I got no moral objection. That's fair use.
Okay. So this is a movie that I fully intend to show you one day, but I went ahead and DM'd it to you. This is a very relevant clip from a very colorful movie, and I would just like to apologize to Motch ahead of time because I doubt this is even going to get on the clip channel because it's a clip of a movie.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Sure.
So we'll give some context. This is Reservoir Dogs, arguably one of the greatest movies of all time. It's a movie about a heist crew, and they're going to get something. The point is not the heist. The point is the stuff that goes on around the heist and how the people in the heist interact with each other. No one knows each other's names. They all have code signs, and it's like Mr. Brown, Mr. Pink, Mr. White, stuff like that. And they are all together eating breakfast. And this is the scene after the breakfast, and I will let the young man here explain what is going on. So yeah, this is
that looks like a fat Elijah Wood.
Yeah, you're not too far off, but that is it kind of, they get along with each other. They like each other. They're nice with each other, and they're also very open with each other.
Elijah Trunk.
The Mr. White is named. His real name is Vince Vega, and he knows the old man here, and he knows the old man's son, which is the guy that you're looking at there. I don't want to get too much into the weeds, but yeah, they all know each other. They all think they know each. It's one of those things, but they still have a level of anonymity, so they keep to the code name. So yeah. So the thing is they're all going to just pull out a buck. Keep in mind, this is 1990. This is the early 90s.
Yeah.
So a dollar had a bit more staying power than it did back than it does now. But anyway, please. By the way, pause it real fast. Go back a frame. Go back a 5-second piece. Play. That guy right there.
Mm-hmm.
That is Quentin Tarantino. That is the director of the film.
And then there's Bush Steve Buscemi. Yeah.
Yep, that is Steve Buscemi, a very young Steve Buscemi. And an arguably pretty good-looking Steve Buscemi, by the way. He's he's got an eccentric look to him, but
Don't give me that. She don't make enough money. She can quit.
That's an argument which makes sense in an economy that's not like in the dumps, which isn't your responsibility to solve individually, but. It's the waitresses and the waiters and whatever. It's not as easy as just, well, these guys aren't paying me enough, I'll go somewhere else. On a collective level, that is the right answer, competition. But if the market isn't sufficiently providing that, it's not an answer to just say they can go somewhere else. It's a fair weather plan. It should be what is done, but if it cannot be done, and you're punishing an individual on the basis of a collective ideal, or not punishing, but withholding support. So yeah, it's not a good argument, but ultimately he's probably got, you know, a worthwhile point.
Let me just get this straight. You don't have a tip, huh? I don't tip because society says I have to. All right, I mean, I'll tip if somebody really deserves a tip. If they really put forth the effort, I'll give them something extra. But I mean, it's tipping automatically. It's for the birds.
Yeah, that's correct.
And I, as someone who was a server for a while and made very good money doing it, I agree wholeheartedly. Like I, as someone who was a server and who made absolute dog water, but made a good living on tips, no. Give me a wage that is competitive to everyone else, and I will make tips on the side. That's the way it should be.
The way it is it's like a commission, but all the risk is on the employee, and they still have to pay taxes on it. And if you want to give them a gift on the side, you can't. They still have to pay taxes on it, or you can, but you know, you can't give them a gift that is just here's some money, it's yours. The government wants to get in on it. Which, that's the worst part, really. Not the worst, but that's really bad. That you can't even give a gift to someone working as a waiter for good service without them saying, "Yeah, but I still need to tell the government about it." A man in the suit's gonna take half of what you just gave me. Oh, fantastic! Oh, great. That really makes a lot of sense. It stinks to me of that's not how it used to be, but the IRS got greedy. They just thought, well, there's a lot of money changing hands. We could have that. Like, pay them a commission then, if you want to do something like that. But actually do it by the books, do it properly. And then allow tips normally. Like, I don't know how you'd measure the commission exactly. Perhaps this is just the way that they want to do that. But breaks the point of a tip. Even if you call it something different than a tip, if you were to call it like the flexible portion of the bill, where this is the suggested amount, and it like this is the amount that goes, you know, we guarantee 90% of it will go to the server. And unfortunately, we have to pay taxes, but you shouldn't have to. Or maybe if you make it official, you should, something like that. And then let tips be its own thing.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the government has to get their weaselly little nose in and make sure that they get their share of your tips.
Yeah. Shall I keep playing? Is there more?
Oh yeah. Okay, it gets better.
Right. Just doing a job. Hey, this girl was nice. She was okay. She wasn't anything special. What's special? Taking the back and suck your dick?
No, that's an additional service. You pay for the service itself. Yeah, that's
exactly.
And that's another thing as well. Only some jobs get this treatment. Now, in a lot of cases right now, as far as I understand, these service workers don't even make minimum wage.
No.
And it's expected the tips will make that up. That's another problem. If we're going to have a minimum wage at all, which is questionable already, why the hell would you ignore it just because your customers are expected to foot the rest of it voluntarily?
Yep. It's it is so completely fucked. Tipping culture is just a absolute disaster in the States.
But even then, like the name tipping culture, you should have a tipping culture. And I would venture to proffer something like what we have here, where you pay a reasonable amount for the service for the whole deal, and then you give a voluntary additional amount. And the culture is that if the service was good, you give 10%. Now it's not expected. If you don't, no one's going to be aggressive with you, or very, very few people are going to be even like scoffing. Like I know they do in the US. I've seen it in media anyway. If you don't give 10%, it's not going to matter that much. But if they've done a good job, then you can give even more than that. That kind of culture is reasonable, where it's okay to give 0. There's a general, even expectation on 10% if it's good, and otherwise you can give more than that. That's a good tipping culture. It's not tipping culture you want to get rid of. It's because it's not tipping. That's the problem. I think the main root of it is that it's misrepresentation of a hidden, like, risk-filled charge. They've taken a chunk of your guaranteed income, your governmentally guaranteed income, and said, we'll let the customer decide if they want to do this. And if they decide not to, your only recourse is to be rude to them, for which we'll fire you.
Yeah, so Ezreal just posted something atrocious, and that's too far down the other side.
Yeah, that would be too far.
Yeah, that is Adam ruins everything, and the only thing that Adam ever truly ruined was his chances at procreation. But I don't think he was ever really concerned with that anyway.
Like, suggestion. Go on, Motch. You go first.
Yeah, no, obviously banning being able to tip is ridiculous, but.
Here's a suggestion. The word gratuity is, I think, almost always used or almost only used in the US compared to the UK. We don't use the term gratuity here, we just say tip. Actually, I have seen it on receipts, but it's more commonly said in the US, whereas here it would just be tip. Perhaps the answer is, because I think this is ultimately a problem of how you conceive of the different things and a language problem, like switching definitions. Perhaps calling it gratuity culture and saying that's the problem, and make it a bit clearer whilst it's still clear what people know what you mean. You can still say, no, tipping's fine, but the notion of a high expectation of gratuity because otherwise the waitress won't get their basic minimum wage. I mean, that should just straight up be illegal already. I don't know why it isn't. And as the guy was saying, it's only some jobs. Why those certain jobs? I guess all the ones that can get away with it because it's beneficial to the employer. And we are talking often about small businesses here, so don't think I've forgotten about that. But we're also talking about big businesses and chains and franchises that can afford not to have to do that. I mean, not so much today, even a lot of big franchises are struggling today, but that's kind of their own fault, especially in California, where minimum wage has been raised so much that they can't afford to exist anymore, even the big McDonald's franchisees. That's a different problem.
You know what this is? It's the world's smallest violin playing just for the waitresses. You don't have any idea what you're talking about.
But by the way,
is that Al Pacino?
No, that's that is a guy you've seen in a ton of stuff.
Yeah,
most of these guys you've seen in a ton of stuff. A lot of them got their start in this movie.
I definitely recognize him.
He's been in. I think he's been in a bunch of Star Trek shows, and he's been in a bunch of TV and movies. But the world's smallest violin.
Yes,
that's where this comes from.
Right. Yeah.
This movie is where it comes from.
Okay.
It's a hard job. So is working at McDonald's, but you don't feel the need to tip them, do you?
Yeah, this is what I mean. It's about the same kind of work, or it's not exactly the same, but it's still customer facing. There's loads of retail jobs that don't get the gratuity culture, but just a few of them do for some reason. And I feel like it's like the rift was open just wide enough that these were the places where tipping was the most sensible. And then, I hate to say it because greed is a force for good often, but over greed or shallow, empty greed wrenched that hole open, rather like a certain early 2000s internet meme, and too far, just in those places where it could be wrenched. And we end up with this. So it's just a few areas, but why only those areas? They're not necessarily or only slightly more worthy of tipping being normal there than anything else. And there's loads of retail jobs that are much more unpleasant, by the reports I've heard, than waitressing.
Yeah, it can get pretty bad with some of them.
Yeah.
Fast food included.
Yeah.
And your food, but no, society says, don't tip these guys over here, but tip these guys over here. That's bullshit. Waitressing is the #1 occupation for female non-college graduates in this country. It's the one job basically any woman can get and make a living on. The reason is because of their tips.
I mean, there is another job that basically any woman can get and make a living on, and the reason is their tits.
Whores! But Mr. Pink, Steve Buscemi here has a wonderful and and witty response, egalitarian in its nature, yet witty in its soul, crisp and smart and quick like a whip,
and
yet
frankly,
deep and soulful. It's
and
a very
frankly,
good response.
Buscemi-tastic to boot.
Yes. Go ahead.
Fuck all that.
Well, I was right. It's Buscemi-tastic.
So the thing is, like, do you understand? Like, this conversation is one of the reasons. This scene is like, it's one of the first scenes of the movie, and it really does a good job of showing you that the dialogue and the cinematography and the acting and the pacing is on point. Like, keep in mind, this is the early 90s, right? And this movie set a genre. Like, you might be thinking, oh, I've seen movies like this. I know of, you know, this kind of witty kind of like, it's almost like a Marvel movie, you know, kind of like where everyone's kind of quippy and kind of got something to say and has
One
a
of
quick
these
response
guys
back and
is
stuff
about
like
to
that.
say, well, that happened.
Yeah. But no, there was never a movie like this before. This was the first.
Okay.
Jesus Christ. I mean, I'm very sorry the government taxes their tips. That's fucked up. That ain't my fault. I mean, it would appear that waitresses are one of the many groups the government fucks in the ass on a regular basis. I mean, if you show me a piece of paper that says the government shouldn't do that, I'll sign it.
Put it to a vote.
No matter what he's talking about. Yeah, Mr. Pink here has some ideas I have some sympathy for.
Mr. Pink is one of the most relatable characters in the movie. And man, some of the things he does and says makes you question it. But there's a lot that can be said about this movie. And it's not, obviously, it goes so much deeper than this conversation. But this conversation is setting up the personalities of these characters in a way that you don't even realize until later. Like, this is one of those movies where you really should watch it like 2 or 3 times in a row to really get how deep it is.
Ezreal has just posted a picture of what looks like a tax form where he has been taxed 100% on his tips.
Good times.
What backwards hellhole are you from, Ezreal?
That's California.
I guess so.
Jesus.
Jesus. That's hard to believe. Yeah, that really sucks. Like, that's to what National Treasure Freemason man there was saying. Like, that is not an argument that it should be subsidized. That's an argument that it should be liberated. If a lot of people go into it, then it should be less extortionate to all involved. Not like, oh, we should just maintain the extortion because that's the only way they get paid. No, that's the way they get paid because the system's set up to make sure that they have no other choice. That's the problem. And I like, Mr. Pink here is making the broad argument. He's making the argument of how the system should change, and he's right. Unfortunately, on the individual level, it doesn't completely translate.
But number one, he's making a broad argument, and also he's making an argument about broads. But also,
that's true.
He is also saying, "Hey, I will do what I can to do it. You put on a piece of paper that they shouldn't be taxing their tips, and I'll sign it. Yeah. You know, if so, put it to a vote, I'll vote for it. Yeah. But right now, as things stand, I'm not doing it. But yeah, go ahead and let it play.
It like in an individual doing that could disadvantage someone. Hundreds of people doing that could cause a lot of problems where it's happening. Hundreds of thousands of people doing that could cause a small depression. Millions of people doing that will change the system.
Yes. And how you change the system is by creating social change.
Yeah.
Social pressure.
Yeah.
This is how you do it. Mr. Pink is 1000% in the right with this.
Yeah, I could understand individual waitresses being angry with him about that because they are going to make less money. They are going to struggle because of his principles. But it's exactly what I mean about principles. This is why we have principles, because they build for the long term. even if in the moment they are not as optimized.
I'll vote for
That's why I
him,
think
won't.
you would really like Taryn, especially his early work like this, because it is the type of thing that you can pause like once every 5 minutes and have a discussion about the shit that's going.
Yeah. Okay.
But anyway, rewind it a little bit. Let's hear what Mr. Pink has to say.
You show me a piece of paper that says the government shouldn't do that, I'll sign it. Put it to a vote, I'll vote for it. But what I won't do is play ball. And it's not college bullshit you're giving me. I got 2 words for that. Learn to fucking type. If you're expecting me to help out with the rent, you're in for a big fucking surprise. I paid for your goddamn breakfast. Alright, since you paid for the breakfast, I'll put in. But normally I would never do this.
And in the end,
what you normally would.
So in the end, he is acting like a good guest. The host, the man who just paid for his meal, says, "Hey, I paid for your meal. The least you can do is grant my request."
Mm.
And like a good guest, he does.
Yeah, that's fair. The Chad move perhaps would have been to say, I'm not putting into the tip pile, but here's $2 in return, twice what you asked, in return for my meal to you. Do with it what you wish. Like, demonstrate that it's not about generosity and you're even willing to be more generous than requested. It's about the principle.
Yeah. I mean, true, but this is also your boss, and you're about to go commit a super felony. So,
those are the best.
You're literally like on your way to go commit a felony.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm not going to press
too much. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get that. All right. BritTwit says, also, isn't a tip a gift? How do you tax a gift? That was my point, yes.